insert mic tap here. This is the welcome. Is this thing on portion of my show? Hey, good morning and welcome. This is Brenda Meller with my LinkedIn Live show. I call this Social Media Pie because I bring on inspiring people like Emily Hay, who is on with me here today, to inform and educate you. Hey, good morning. And how are you doing today, Emily?
Hey there, Brenda. I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. I love this.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. And you're a return guest to my show. We were in the pre-show chat. We were talking about, kind of getting ready for today. And I said, I remember the last time we chatted, it was in the summer because I remember I was in my patio in the Florida room in the back of my house. And it was nice enough outside. So I'm delighted to have you back again. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun today chatting.
Thank you. I'm lucky to be one of your returning guests, so I appreciate it, and I'm very excited too.
Well, I bring back people that I sometimes it's like through the conversations that we have, there's a topic, and I said, we could talk about this just in a one-to-one call, but why not, bring you on the show to talk about it a little bit more, and that's what we're going to be talking about today: how moms can work for themselves to get back to work, and this is near and dear to my heart. As you know, Emily, I'm a big supporter of women and supporting fellow moms and helping each other through their journey. So before we do that, I want to just speak to our viewing audience right now. If you guys are watching, could you please, you see my ticker running below, could you please leave a comment and let us know where in the world you're watching from? This does two things for us. The first is it's kind of like that mic tap, like, is this thing on? Is the live stream picking up? Sometimes StreamYard drops the baton, so to speak, when it hands it over to LinkedIn. And sometimes LinkedIn drops the baton as it grabs it from StreamYard. If you're a track race person, you know what I'm talking about there. And then the other thing is it does let us know who is watching, because we don't know who is watching until you leave a comment. So if you could just say hello, you can say hello from Detroit. You can say good afternoon from wherever you are in the world, or good evening, whether you're watching this live or playback. I would love if you could please drop a comment, and that lets us know the stream is picking up and who's watching. And I see some folks that are on with us this morning. We have Des Moines watching. This person, Emily, it says LinkedIn user from Chicago. And I'll go online and see who it is in a second. But if this is you watching us from Chicago, we're not seeing your name or photo, either because you're locked down on LinkedIn, you have it like in private mode, or because you don't have your third-party settings enabled. And I will drop a link in chat with instructions on how to fix that so we can see who you are. So I'll let those folks continue to drop those comments in. Now, Emily, I know a little bit about you, and you and I go way back. I want to say we've got to be coming up on about 10 years now. Does that
I
sound about right?
know. That's totally right.
Yeah. So I know a little bit about you, and I've seen your business evolve over the years, but why don't you take a few minutes, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your business, Hey There Media.
Well, thanks so much, Brenda. And you're right. I mean, you are someone who walks the walk. You are a woman, a marketing professional, someone who went out on her own. You are a mom. So again, I feel a kinship with you, always have. And I'm really excited to be able to help some people today too. So just a quick bit about me. Again, my name is Emily A. Hay, and I started my business back in 2009. And I went out on my own as a social media freelancer. So I had no experience in the self-employment arena. I didn't grow up with any family business or anyone that really showed me what it meant to be self-employed or how you even achieve self-employment. And for a long time, I thought freelance sounded so lonely and sounded like it was something only if you were a writer could you freelance. But got myself in gear and was able to use social media as my freelance vehicle to allow myself to become self-employed.
That's awesome. Isn't it funny how so many of us, it's not like when you hear about self-employment, it's not like we were all like, oh, I have the 5-year plan. I'm going to start tucking money away and get my business plan set up, and then I'm going to launch. It's more, for different reasons. Sometimes we find ourselves thrust into this world of entrepreneurship. And to your point, there's not really a roadmap, is there?
You're right. And as I thought about today, I would love to talk through so much of that, because when you take that step back, and with today's theme being how moms can work for themselves to get back to work, I feel like we just have these rigid definitions, or maybe we have these misconceptions, or self-employment has been represented to us one way that we simply don't think we fit into. And the secret is it's not that hard.
Yeah,
It's
right.
a lot of it is taking what you're already doing, some skills that you already have, and simply packaging it in a different way. So yeah, so thank you. I know you really understand that.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of funny. It's like when you look back in retrospect, it's like, "Oh, that's how I did it." But when you're going through the process, sometimes it's a little bit like making sausage, right? Like,
It sure is,
it's a
yes,
little
and
messy.
so
Right.
it is hectic, again, not to say that it's a perfect road, but, it's certainly one that when you get going, a lot of opportunities open that you just wouldn't have even known existed, let
Mhm.
alone thought that you were qualified to take advantage of. So,
Yeah.
so Brenda, as we start today, would it be best if I did bring a visual because
Yes,
I thought it
please show
might be
and tell,
useful? Yeah.
everyone. Yes. Let's do it.
All right, let me go ahead and share. And the purpose of what I'm going to show everyone is really just to bring everyone in on how I look at the group that we're talking to. So I know this is a bit of an eye chart. You can see this, Brenda.
I can. Yep, it's up on
Okay,
screen right now. Yep.
great. So today, everyone, this bullseye. I'm going to zoom in a second here, but just to really just hone in on the audience that I spend the majority of my time talking to as the founder of Hey There Social Media. So right in this bullseye, we've got women that are looking for marketing work. So we learned that marketing was one of the industries that was hardest hit by the pandemic because of the great resignation. So many women had to leave the workforce because of caregiving needs. So marketing was an industry that, like I said, was impacted. And so a lot of women right now that have marketing experience, communications, PR, we'll call them women looking for marketing work. So that's where, like I said, I spend a lot of time talking to women in that space.
Mm.
The next ring, if you can see here, is women looking for flexible work. So doesn't even necessarily mean if marketing is your background or what you're looking to get into, but if you just want something that's flexible, maybe that's flexible where you work, maybe that's flexible around the number of hours you work. Maybe it can ebb and flow with your caregiving demands, but we talk to women that are simply looking for flexible work.
Mm.
The next ring, I'll say here, if you find yourself as you're a woman who's simply looking to close your resume gap. So maybe it's been a 9-month gap, maybe it's been a 9-year gap, but we hear about a resume gap, simply a lapse in time where you weren't in a professional role. And as a LinkedIn expert, Brenda, I feel like you probably get that. You're
Mhm.
aware of that very, very much, with people saying, "What do I write? How do I articulate what I did during that gap?" So, we talk to a lot of women that are just looking for what professional fulfillment can I get? What work can I do next that will help me close that gap? And then I'll no longer have a gap. And so that again brings back to our talk today of how women can work for themselves to get back to work. And then I'll leave this last outer ring for just women. We say women looking for more. You know, maybe you are perfectly suited to do whatever corporate job you're in right now. Maybe you've been self employed before. Maybe you're looking for something part time. Maybe you don't know, but you are just looking for more. So I'll stop sharing for now. But like I said, today, there's so many things that we will talk through. But that again, just at least brings in the audience that I'm talking to.
I love it. And a couple of points I wanted to touch on too when you talk about the resume gap. It's not like we took off time and went on a beach somewhere and we were sitting around doing nothing. It's we shifted from professional responsibilities to family we were raising human beings. I mean,
Little
there
important.
there really wasn't a gap in our lives. It was probably more full than it had ever been during those times because when you are a stay-at-home full-time mom, you're chauffeur, chef, party planner, um, you know, coordinator of play dates and social activities and well-being and making all the appointments. You're doing a lot. And it was really nice that LinkedIn, I don't know if you knew this, Emily, but in the past year they did introduce some new settings for your profile where you can now indicate, and I don't know the exact word. If somebody's watching and knows the exact word, go ahead and drop it in comments. But it was basically that you stayed home to care for, I'm not sure if it was family caregiver or there's some different settings in there. And one of them is on hiatus. I remember that. But they now have introduced those to your profile. And what I love about it is it helps to normalize this process because, if we need to have and raise fellow human beings, somebody has to take care of them. And we shouldn't look down upon women for taking that step into the family. It's not even a step back. It's a step into making their family a priority while they pause on their career. So loving the topic. And I know you've got a lot of advice for us here, Emily. So I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Oh, sure. No, that's great. And again, it's a blessing and a curse. You know, what we women are living through right now, this awareness of the caregiving crisis that we
Mhm.
all witnessed during COVID. But again, prior to the pandemic, women stepped into full-time caregiving roles. And you're right. Should women be professionally penalized for that? Of course not. And it is interesting. I did know that LinkedIn brought some of those features forward. There's a lot of discussion around the best professional ways women can leverage that experience because it is very valid experience. The invisible workload, the mental load. There's so many terms around this. There's a whole movement around fair play, which is helping have more gendered divide
Mm.
fairly of labor so that women can be all they need to be in the professional world. But so again, this is something that a resume gap is not a new concept, but we at Hey There really vision a future where people forget what it was because there's
Mhm.
things that you can do during that time where you're caregiving that you can articulate you've done, but also just perhaps freelancing, working for yourself to be able to keep yourself in motion during those years.
Mhm.
So, with that said, another thing I wanted to talk about was just to level the playing field on what it is I'm talking about with
Mhm.
self employment. So, what we mentioned in the top of the call here, Brenda, was that self employment, I think, can be a scary concept. It can be a very foreign concept, possibly because we don't all witness it, like I said, growing up. But especially for women, because we hold this high bar of I need to go from not working at all to having an office with 60 employees and being able to go to the beach when I want. And that's self employment. And
Right.
that, first of all, that's just a misconception. You don't go from 0 to 60. And you also don't have to go to an in person office with 60 employees to be viably self-employed. So I'm not sure what your thoughts are around there, but again, I just really
Yeah.
like to peel back the layers of what self-employment actually looks like.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about that because I was thinking about this. I every morning my dog takes me for a walk. I don't take her for a walk; she takes me for a walk, and it gives me the chance to really reflect. And I have these mornings, Emily, where I'm walking and I'm like, gosh, it's like 8:15 right now, and I'm walking my dog and I'm listening to the birds chirping and the squirrels. And back in my corporate life, I remember like that was the time of day where you're getting into work and getting meetings started. Sometimes in a board meeting already by that point. And while I love all the experiences I have, I don't miss it. The life that I have for myself now, I structure it how I want to. In the summer, I often will keep my hours between 9 to 3 and sometimes 9 to noon. I'll get my work done, my appointments done, and I do work evenings and weekends sometimes too, but because I choose to. And I this morning I was thinking I cannot even imagine going back into a corporate job and having such a structured life. Like I don't know what I would do during the summer with my kids and family because I feel like I have so much flexibility right now to do those things. So yeah, self-employment, it's not a 9 to 5, it's not a 5 to 9. I don't know. You make it what you want it to be, and I certainly could have a team in an agency if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I want to have a little bit more flexibility. So
Sure.
yeah, it's some good reflections there.
Yeah, and that's where again we bring in the word freelance because from what I've gathered, I feel like freelance can be an empowering thing, but I also get the impression that people find it um it's like a scary word and you're
Mhm.
lonely and it's risky. But freelance, and it's not just reserved for writers. I mean, freelance can literally be you leveraging any professional skill you have
Mhm.
and putting it to use for clients that you get on your own. Part-time work. I mean, again, there's a lot of ways to freelance that I just have had to take a step back as I talk to so many women, and they just don't even think about freelance as an option for them. And so
Right.
again, this is a bit of semantics, but if you are freelancing, you are technically self-employed. If you are
Mhm.
self-employed, are you necessarily freelancing? I mean, not really,
Right.
but still, just looking at you can freelance, you can be self-employed, and it doesn't require you to go from working by yourself to having a full-blown office and staff and
Mhm. Yeah.
company that you were in charge of.
And on that note too, Emily, there may be some women who are watching this show right now. If you're watching it live and you are independently employed, if you are doing project work in a category area, like drop it in comments and tell us the type of work that you're doing because you never know who you might be reaching. There might be somebody on here who's a writer, editor, proofreader, and somebody goes, "Oh, I need that." There might be somebody else who's a VA and somebody's looking for a virtual assistant. And if you are working but starting to do some things and the side hustle, the freelance life, wait until after hours and then leave a comment, because there are timestamps that occur when you leave comments on these things. But maybe just make a mark in your calendar for later on after hours to go back and add in a comment and just say, I'm starting to do some graphic design on the side. And I know a lot of organizations, they have, either written policies or unwritten policies that say, we know that you might have some side work, but just don't do it on company time, and don't use company resources. So I just want to encourage those women that are watching. You can leave a comment later on here, and you never know. I mean, maybe you'll pick up a new client or a new piece of business, or just learn some things from watching the show here today.
You're so right, Brenda. And again, in the spirit of LinkedIn, I mean, it's such a strong vehicle to be able to make those kinds of connections. And just through a comment, you never know who can find it,
Mhm.
who will stumble upon it, who you connect with profile to profile. So great advice as always. So my next thought, like I said, when I think about how moms can work for themselves to get back to work, we talked a little bit about the what of being self-employed and using freelance as your vehicle to get there. Then the next question I think naturally is, so how do you do that?
Mm.
And I again, I like to make it simpler instead of a big scary thing. And so what I really look at is work with what you have. And my definition of that is, are you creative? Are you a communicator? Are you someone who, enjoys working with certain types of businesses? So working with what you have, that's one of the things we do at Hey There. So we have a program
Mm.
where we train women, majority moms, to be freelance social media managers. And not only do I hear from these women, I didn't know social media was a thing at all. They say,
Oh,
I
really?
didn't know that I was qualified to be a social media manager. And so as we peel back those layers, we go, well, what are some common denominators here? And a lot of them have, well, I worked in customer service. Well, I
Mm.
worked in sales. I've written press releases. I love to be creative. And all of those qualities certainly make one eligible to be a social media manager in particular. But you could also look at qualities that you possess today and see how those are actually very, very useful to be a freelance professional.
Mhm. And it's amazing too. I mean, when you say, you're helping these people get into roles, things that they never have thought about. I mean, all these skill sets that you can pull into these roles. And I think part of it also has to be they are probably using these sites themselves, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not sure what sites you're training, but I would imagine they're using them personally, so they have some transferable skills that they could use in the role as well that they're pulling up, right?
Absolutely. I mean, again, we're sitting here on a LinkedIn Live. So
Mhm.
if you're watching this live, you have what it takes to be a social media manager. I mean, you got
There you go.
here. You're on LinkedIn. You do not have to know all the nuances of every single social network.
Yeah.
Again, we look at social media as the platform, but the skills that you bring to it are transferable. So yes, we've had women. In fact, I wonder if I caught your attention on that, Brenda. That when I
Mhm.
say women didn't know social media was a thing, I mean they certainly know about social media marketing, but to
Right.
think that, so you're telling me a business will hire me to write their content and post on their behalf, because a lot of the times the women think that they need to be an influencer or that
Right.
they need to be the subject of that
Mhm.
business's posts. And it's actually quite the opposite. You're the person behind the scenes,
Mhm.
preparing the content, posting the content, engaging as a community manager. That is the in-demand work. That is the work that fueled my self-employment path for 10 years, that I built a team of moms doing the same thing, and that's what we help women do today.
I think that's awesome, and I think I'm not gonna name names on the person, but I did send someone over to you who was dabbling in that, and she was really having, some difficulty, I think, gaining new clients. In her specific situation, her husband had been moved overseas for another position. So some of her local clients, I think she stopped doing the work for a little bit because she needed to kind of pack up the house and the kids and get everybody resituated. And then she reached back out to me and said, do you have and at the time I was doing social media management, and she said, "Do you have any other client work that I can help you with?" And I at that time was doing only LinkedIn, and I said, "I'm only doing LinkedIn now." But I heard from my friend Emily that she's now doing, this coaching program, and I'm not sure if I'm just describing it correctly,
Yeah,
Emily.
that's
So
fine.
maybe you
Mhm.
could. I mean, I said I know she's doing some work with helping women get back into the workforce, and it was like exactly, like, she was the persona that you had described when I had read about it. I'm like, "Oh, she would be perfect for it." So is that the correct way to describe it? Is it a coaching program, or how do you define that?
Sure. Well, first of all, air hug for
Yeah,
sending her
right?
our way because you totally nailed it. And I guess I would have put her, someone like her was in a variety of those rings.
Right.
Someone who's in marketing, looking for flexible work, didn't
Mhm.
necessarily have a resume gap, but just also wanted more. But yes, so that was perfect, and thank you so much.
Yeah.
So with our program, I mean, we have a 6-week training that we look at. You get a complete skill set to be a social media manager. So
Mm.
again, not to make it a complete commercial about the program, because some of the things we've learned through our program is it's not just about learning all the things about social media.
Mhm.
With our program, we have taken a step back and said, let's cover operations. Let's
Mm.
cover how to prospect. Let's cover how to, continue to sharpen your skills, because social media is an industry that changes rapidly. But don't be scared, because it's perfectly acceptable to say, that's not a tool I know yet. I'm learning that. Or I know this one instead of that one. Or I know this
Mhm.
feature over on Facebook, but I haven't quite learned it on LinkedIn. So again, our program, like I said, in 6 weeks, we do take women that want something that's professional and transferable and flexible, and help them be able to build their own client portfolio.
Do
Um,
you do you also get people, Emily, that come up to you that say, "I'm looking for somebody that can do my social media management for me." I mean, do you have prospective clients that you refer over to these women, or how does that process look?
yes, thank you. So that
Mhm.
that's one of the I've heard it described as a perk. That's one of the
Yeah.
perks of our program, that we absolutely refer leads. We refer client
Mhm.
leads, businesses of all sizes. We're generally the small to medium. I should say
Okay.
businesses of all types that will say, what you just mentioned. I'm looking to hire a social media manager. I don't want to go to Upwork. I don't want to go
Mhm.
the intern route. I've tried having my niece help me. I need
Right.
someone more professional. And so that's a great fit for the women that have gone through our program. And that is something we've seen a lot of women start taking on
Mhm.
clients before they even complete the program. Because again, they're not social media newbies. They have a
Mhm.
working knowledge of social, and they're able to package all of this together and then put it to use really quickly.
That's good to know. So I want to just ask our viewing audience right now, if you have not yet left a comment, please drop a comment in here because it helps to broadcast this video out to more people. And you could just say hello from Metro Detroit or wherever you're in the world you're watching from. Or you might say, you might tag someone in who has recently mentioned to you that they're looking for some help with their social media for their company, because then Emily can follow up with you and give you some leads and referrals. And then you can look like a superstar for helping them out, right? So just a reminder, if you haven't already commented, comment, because then we can know who's watching here, and then that does help to broadcast this out to more people. So
That's great, Brenda. You're so good again at keeping the ecosystem going. I love
keeping it going, yeah.
it. Brenda, another thing I would just bring up as we
Yeah.
think about this landscape of, you had to build your own client roster.
Mhm.
The thought of going out and getting leads and referrals, and the referrals are the nice part because you worked hard enough. But I would love to point out that there are so many marketplaces popping up right now that are focused on women, and even
Mhm.
focused on moms returning to work. So there's a group, Bulo Solutions, Boulo. Bulo Solutions is a
Mhm.
network that helps moms get back into the workforce, and they're pairing them with companies are that respect work life, that respect family caregiving roles. So that company didn't exist a decade ago. So to know that if you are a woman that wants to get into freelance, wants to leverage her skills, there are places that you can go to list specifically and find those roles.
Did I
There's
get this
another,
did I
yeah,
get this right, Emily?
yeah.
Bulo Solutions, B-O I typed in Google V as in Victor, and then I think I misheard the letter. Is
Oh,
it
sorry.
Bulo Solutions? Did I get it right?
That's right. That's
Okay,
right.
good.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
That's one. We Are Rosie is another. It's been in the news a lot. They're a freelance marketplace, tailored to men, women, any person that has generally marketing background. But again, it's the future of work. We are sitting here living the evolution of how work is changing. And so while it may have been really scary a decade, 5 years ago, even to go out on your own, it's just so much more common these days. And so resources are popping up for professionals who are freelancing, so it's not so difficult to start something from scratch.
Awesome, and I'm trying to keep up, and I'm trying to find the links for these places too, and I'm gonna drop these into the comments right now in chat, so if you're watching, you'll be able to click on over them, and I'm also gonna do a shout out if I can find their pages on LinkedIn to add these in. So is the We Are Rosie, is that kinda nod to Rosie the Riveter in the name, do you
Yes,
know,
yeah, they
or
do call their freelancers if you list on their site, you are called a Rosie. So,
okay.
yeah, yeah, the like I said, the way the future of work is changing, and that's a great place to go to.
Very good. Well, thank you for those. And I dropped those in there. And I'll also put those, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put those in the show notes below. And eventually this will go into a podcast and it'll be in the show notes in there as well. So some great resources, Bulo Solutions, We Are Rosie, and of course, Hey There, social media. I would
Thanks,
add to that
Brenda.
mix for folks that are looking for work as women. So
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and, again, I'd love to know your opinion on this. I
Yeah.
We women tend to count ourselves out, and so, you think, "Well, am I able to do that? Am I qualified to do that?" I would
Hmm.
say I have never, never say never, I have never seen getting started in freelance hurt you, because ultimately it gets you in motion. It gets the
Hmm.
wheels turning. It forces you to use LinkedIn. It forces you to, think about what services you could offer. Even if you were to do something on a trade basis,
Right.
a practice client, a case study client, it is
Hmm.
going to introduce you to more opportunities than you would have if you never got started. So,
Hmm.
again, just want to take some of the scaries out, that objects in motion stay in motion, and freelancing is one way to get yourself in motion.
Yeah, good point. On that note, though, I recall a conversation as you were talking about freelancing and donating your work or doing free project work. I remember talking to a woman and she was doing free project work for about 6 months. She wasn't getting paid at all. And I remember asking her, at what point, are you going to start charging? And it was a confidence thing. Well, I don't know if I feel comfortable. I don't know if I have enough experience. I said, you've been doing this for 6 months already. And she had multiple clients at this point too that were, and I kind of said, they're taking advantage of you. At this point, you've given them the free work to help to gain some. You have the free work, so you need to let them know the free, the free wagon gravy train is going to be cut off at some point. And then here's my introductory rate since you've been a VIP client that I've been working with, but you need to start charging because freelance does not mean that you work for free. Freelance means that you are an independent agent, right? It doesn't mean that you're doing the work for free. So is that something you see, you hear in conversations too, in terms of like, how much do I charge? Or I don't want to charge that much. Do you see some questions about value too, Emily?
Well, sure. And by the way, I think you nailed it when she mentioned it was a confidence thing, that
Mhm.
the world will continue to take what you give. And until you say, like, that these are my rates, this is what I charge to do this work.
Mhm.
Yeah, you could definitely stay in that vicious cycle. I guess I haven't seen that become a problem, because no matter what career you go into, there's always that phase of being new and learning, and then that phase stops. So
Yeah.
if you're leveraging, back in the day with an internship, to do a very short project with a clear goal of getting an honest testimonial out of it, and being able to leverage that project to send to prospective clients with your proposal, with how much you would charge, with what you propose doing. I guess I would advise doing that in a very limited duration, and only with the expectation of leveraging it to get, the next paid project.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess, you brought up towards the end of your question about, do we see people struggling with that? I mean, one downside of freelancing is there are no set rate sheets. There isn't necessarily a going rate for what things cost. And when you talk to a prospective client, they might say, so I don't even know what all of this costs. And that's where, you can start to feel a little discouraged as the professional on the other side. But that's where, as part of our program, we talk about making sure that your documents show this is a good place to start, and let me know if you want to talk from here, and I can make a custom proposal from there. But
Mhm.
that's a whole thing of qualifying your leads. But by all means, freelance, you're right, does not mean working for free ever.
Yeah.
And I don't why would we women even think that? That's so unfair to us.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes we feel like, well, I'm not in corporate anymore, so I can't charge what I used to make as an employee as an hourly rate. I mean, what I usually tell people is like shop around. I mean, you can Google it. You can look up social media management monthly costs, and you can find what some people are charging. Um, And even some of your current clients, if they're coming to you, you can say, well, what were you paying? If they're friends, if they're people that are close to you, they may be willing to share what those rates are. But I think, sometimes when you engage with somebody like Emily, and I'll just give a plug for you, engage with somebody from Emily, where this is what she does for a living, she can help you to kind of understand what is the market going rate. And then also not just setting a flat rate and giving them everything. Like, I think there has to be some an itemized list of what does that include, because for one client, Emily, a social media management might look like 5 networks once a day, and then you're thinking about YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or maybe even TikTok even is a mix in there, right? And other clients might be 3 networks twice a week. So you have to think about frequency and amount of work that's going in there as it relates to that rate of pay for the month. Would you agree with that?
I would. And as you
Mhm.
bring up a lot of these almost like 2.0 questions, I think
Right.
until you get going, you won't even know how to approach those things. So
Mhm.
the worst that happens is that you start something and you realize that project didn't work, and then you know what to do the next time, and you keep
Right.
refining from there.
Yeah.
So like I said, when you throw out, you're like, is it 5 networks? Is it 3 networks? Is it how many hours? Or that is a very big part of what we teach, because we
Yeah.
appreciate that that's where we spend a lot of time, learning those lessons on our own. So we like to accelerate women past that point
Yeah.
quickly. But yeah,
Mhm.
so great advice.
Yeah, and I'm gonna point to the ticker that's up on screen now. We're gonna shift gears a little bit and bring this into an audience conversation. So if you've been watching us all along, if you have a comment, now is the time to drop your comment in if you have not done so yet. If you have a question for Emily, drop it in. And by the way, if you are somebody who is maybe working but starting to consider the side hustle and you don't want people to know based on what your comment is, you can say, I have a friend who was wondering about where to start the process for freelancing, or I have a friend who my sister-in-law is a stay-at-home mom and she was wondering if X, Y, and Z. So you could use as a scenario to ask your question. And if you feel comfortable dropping that in right now into live, we will answer your questions, pull your comments up here live. If you're not comfortable doing it right now, but you want to do it later on, you can do so. And I will be sure to send the link to Emily so that she can reply back to you later on tonight, because we all get it. We've been there. I
Totally.
did see a couple of comments that have come in, and I want to bring a few of them up on screen right now. To point out, we are raising human beings. That's a vital part of life, right, Emily?
I mean, and it's not going away. We spend a lot of time. I mean, this is biology. Our team, my COO, Allie Spitzer, she's done a lot of research into just what caregiving shifts look like. And the caregiving demands are actually going to increase. As professional women have more children, highly educated women, more children, as aging loved ones continue to
True.
age. So yes, caregiving demands, raising human beings, taking care. Caregiving is real work.
Yeah. And I want to remind everybody, raising human beings does not just have to be the job of women. And I'm going to give a shout out right now to my friend Dan Roth. He and his wife had twins. He stayed home and cared for the twins when they were newborn babies, and his wife went back to work full time. So it happens on both sides. Men and women can be responsible, can share that responsibility for raising human beings. But I just want to give a shout out to him because he's a big advocate of supporting women as well. He may not jump in right now, but I know he'll see it later and he'll
Yes,
appreciate that.
certainly an
Um,
ally to us. Thank
yeah,
you.
we need them, right? And I see here we also have Mindy Stern joining us. Hey, Mindy. Mindy is actually, I kind of in my head, I think of career strategist, career coach
Okay.
categorically. So she's been self employed, helping job seekers get the tools they need to either get their next job or their next gig. And after 20 years working in corporate, I would never go back. Hey, I like to refer to this, Emily, as being enthusiastically unemployable. It doesn't mean I can't get a job. I couldn't go back into corporate. It means I love it so much I don't have any desire. So I'm enthusiastically unemployable.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. She said, it's a great conversation for people who want to reimagine their roles. It's a don't look at it as a burden. Look at it as a blessing. I mean,
Yeah.
again, if you're in this phase right now of saying what's next, or I'm looking for more,
Mhm.
or I never really thought about freelancing. It is something that, like I said, with the landscape right now and opportunities being easier and more normal to come by, it's an
Mhm.
exciting time.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And Des Moines also says freelance means that you are the owner of your service, so you charge according to the service that you do. And there is actually a great analogy here, Emily. I don't know if you've seen this, but Tiffany sells Tiffany, the store, like the blue box store, sells. And if you go on their website, you can see. But I've seen like giant paper clips for like thousands of dollars, and a tin can for like $500 or 1500. It was crazy. It was a tin can. It's like an office, something you put on your desk, not even a desk weight, but just like a piece. And if you would pay, I mean, there are people that will pay 500, $1,500 for this tin can from Tiffany's, whereas you could go into your recycle bin and find one for free. I mean, you charge for the value, the perceived value, and the assumed value that people get from the services that you deliver, right, Emily?
Absolutely. I actually just had a talk with someone about there is a formal term called
Mhm.
value-based billing
Mm,
around the what are you charging for the value that's exchanged. It's not based on the number of hours that you spend doing that work. So it is a whole nother discussion. And that again goes back to what we talked about with I just want women to see that you can work with what you have.
mhm,
That it isn't about developing an entire new skill set or an entire new way of working. It's looking at some of your qualities today and
mhm.
what can be packaged and put to use for certain businesses that will get you going in freelance. So yeah,
Absolutely.
people will pay you for the
Yeah.
the services you can deliver, but you have to own those services. You have to own the
Yes.
qualifications and deliver the services.
And deliver on that value, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. So, hey, Dan Roth got my shout out. He's always I wanna say he's always in front of the computer because he's a recruiter now, but he did, see it, and I wanna say thank you, Dan. You'll have to watch the playback to see what we were talking about for you, but I think you can probably guess, Dan, because 'cause we're here talking about how moms can work for themselves to get back to work, so we're talking a little bit about family responsibilities, and I know you're a huge advocate for women. I think we have one final comment, and then we'll start to wrap up on here. And this is actually a question coming from Des Moines. Thank you so much, Des Moines, for being such an active participant on our show here today.
Love it.
She's saying she's looking for some practical tips for her own community who are formed by teen moms without English skills so they could use freelancing service to get hired on LinkedIn. Any thoughts there, Emily?
For women that without English skills, gosh, I would probably have to sidebar, have a chat with you there, Demoina, to understand a little
Mhm.
bit more about the situation there. But at least one word that jumps out, it looks like you have a community that you're running, and that's hugely beneficial because again, freelancing can be quite isolating. So if you have a community of women that are getting together and brainstorming together, the power of working
Mhm.
together, and not all on their own, I'd be happy to talk about that a bit more.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Des Moines, for watching, and for all the other folks that are watching here today. I want to start to shift gears and move us into wrapping our conversation here today. And as we do that, I'm going to pull up your LinkedIn URL, Emily. So here's our
Thank
LinkedIn,
you.
and
I
then I'm going to
appreciate
share
that.
it. What's that?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to share the screen. And when you're doing StreamYard, you're kind of piloting and co piloting. So give me just a second to pull it up. I think this is it right here. There we go, your LinkedIn URL. And I see at the
Thank
top here we
you.
have Emily. Hey there. Really, really great branding consistency there too. Because if I click from here over to your website, I know there's really great consistency in imagery there. So Emily, are you open to connecting with anyone, or what is your preference if someone wanted to connect with you?
Yes, I mean, I guess I've never put any parameters around who I'm willing to connect with. I simply read, what the person sends in a message. I look up their profile and see if there's some synergies, and I'm happy to connect.
Awesome. And by the way, guys, what I would recommend is that when you invite Emily to connect, mention that you saw her on this LinkedIn Live interview with me. Mention me by name, Brenda Meller, and say, I saw you on the interview with Brenda Meller. And if you're interested in learning more about her program, her services, definitely mention that as well. But do invite her to connect. I will also tag her in on comments to make it a little bit easier for you to follow her or look up her profile on LinkedIn. And then I also want to show your website here. I was looking at this in the background as we were getting our conversation started here today, and I'm
Thank
going to
you,
pull
Brenda.
that up on screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
I
Do I
was
just?
just thinking if you really saw any brand problems, please tell me. I need to always get better.
Oh no. It's interesting though. Websites are like building a website or overhauling a website, redoing it's like having a child, like going through that process of it is easily a 9-month process going through and revamping websites. It's a learning experience going through that. But I did see somebody in the one of the videos. Is that Aaron Rawlings in the background in one of the?
Yes, yes.
I
Yes.
saw her real quick in the background in one of those videos, so I'm gonna give her a little shout out in comments there too. So, if
Yeah.
people
This is
visited
not
your
stock
website,
photos. Yeah.
yeah, right? If people visited your website, looks like it's pretty intuitive. I could click on either the enroll button or become an insider. But if you could, maybe there are people who joined the show a little bit late or watching all the way to the end here. Could you summarize for us again what the services or offerings that you do, and then where do people go to get started for that?
Sure. Thanks so much for going to the site. So, there is one service that we offer. It's our social media insiders training. That is the program that I was talking about, the 6 weeks where women, majority moms, go through our program to get a proven, transferable professional skill set to allow them to work as a social media manager, freelance on their terms, be able to possibly go work at a company part time, full time, whatever their needs are. But yeah, if you can surf through, go through classes, all the information you would need should be very straightforward. There's reviews, you can hear what other women that have graduated from the program are saying. And then I would just say there is a good old email floater that pops up that if you do opt in with your email address, you'll get a webinar where I talk about the 3 qualities you need to be a really great social media manager.
Awesome. And I did have that pop up, but I closed it. I probably should have kept
That's
it because then we could have
okay.
shown that up on screen. But
No
I,
problem.
I like it. It wasn't, it was very intuitive. When you go to the site, I can kind of understand where to go and where to get started with it. So I just want to thank you so much, Emily. It's been a
Oh,
delight hearing from you. And we actually reconnected recently because of our shared affiliation with another membership group, Together Digital. Um,
absolutely.
so I think I saw that you had joined, and I reached out. I'm like, oh, I know Emily. That's
Yeah.
my Emily. No.
Yes, yes, yes. Gosh, actually, my membership renewal is coming up very soon. My company, the company joined,
Yeah.
and Together Digital is an organization that we talk about with the women that go through our program because, again, in the spirit of you are on your own, let's talk about how you can network yourself effectively. So,
Yeah.
great organization, and I always think of you when I think of them. So they're
Oh, thank
lucky.
you. Well, I want to give a shout out, and if there's any women watching this right now who are interested, it's really open to any woman who works in any type of a digital marketing, public relations, freelance, corporate, agency, analytics, programmatic. I mean, any field. We have corporate, we have independent folks that are affiliated with the organization. It's just a really amazing national network. We've got a very active Slack channel, and there's a local chapter here in Detroit that Emily, we're starting to think about when we're going to be meeting back in person again and bringing people back together. So we're hoping maybe the fall. It's. I mean, now that summer's here, we're all kind of like, do we want to meet in person or should we wait until we're back to school and everything? So I think we're leaning towards the fall right now, but
Okay,
we'll keep you posted on that.
can't wait.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again, Emily. Any final comments for us on our topic here, how moms can work for themselves and get back to work as we start to wrap up the conversation today?
I don't. Brenda, I would thank you for being a role model. We have read through our research that data does show one of the reasons women don't go out on their own is because they have a lack of role models. So I very much consider you a friend, mentor, a role model to other women. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, but thank you for all you're doing, leading authentically, living this life, walking the walk. You are truly a role model.
Oh, well, you are too kind. And likewise, you were one of the people I aspired to be like when I grew up. When I was like
Funny.
when I was in the corporate world, I'm like, how do people do it? How do people do the pivot? And you've for me, I've everywhere I've seen you go, you're successful and you've got this life and energy about you and you inspire people and you bring people. I mean, you bring that motivation to others. So thank you for being an inspiration, not just to me, to many, Emily. And I'm looking
Oh
forward
my
to
gosh.
continuing to watch your business grow and evolve.
Likewise. And thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up the conversation here, to guys, today, whether I want to just ask those people that are watching, whether you're watching this live or in playback, as soon as you are done watching the video, there's going to be a little share button at the bottom. If you click on share, and you can share that as a LinkedIn post. When you do so, tell people something that you learned by watching today's video, or maybe tell people who should watch this video. Like, for example, you might say, hey, watch this video if you're thinking about making the pivot into self-employment. Or if you're, maybe a working mom who's taking a break from work, looking at finding another path back into working again, watch this video. Let people know. And if you do so, tag Emily in the post so that she sees that notification coming up. If you haven't posted this week, this month, this year on LinkedIn yet, you can make this your post. So I encourage you to do so, and that helps to spread the word. That's kind of my way of paying my guests for coming on and sharing their expertise and helping to give them some additional visibility. With that said, I want to thank everyone for watching. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of the week. And Emily, I hope to see you at some point. Maybe we'll be at our in-person Together digital meeting in the fall, but if not, I'm sure we'll continue to cross circles here online.
Absolutely. I hope to see you IRL soon.
There you go. With that said, guys, take care, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I look forward to seeing all of you on LinkedIn. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.